TDK.
During the George Foreman comeback, there have been a lot of jokes made. George has made a lot of puns, and he has postured a lot in the ring. But something else has happened. He has shown us the old George Foreman power, and that's what we'll look at tonight on Superbouts. Hi, everybody. I'm Al Bernstein, and tonight we will look at George Foreman's comeback from the standpoint of the knockouts that he's produced, or at least some of the major ones. Now, he was only 4 fights into his comeback in 1987 when he would take on Rocky Sekorski, a journeyman pro. And that was the 38-year-old George Foreman, but even then, people had their doubts about this comeback. They weren't sure that a 38-year-old man should come back and try and win the heavyweight championship. And Sekorski represented, some thought at that time, a step up from the competition that George had been facing. So when he went in December 12, 1987 against Rocky Sekorski, we televised it on ESPN, and the nation held its breath as it waited to see what would George Foreman have to offer. We'll show you right now.
Okay, I spoke to both of you fighters in your dressing room. I want to remind you again to obey my commands at all times. Is there any questions? Shake hands, good luck.
Rocky Sekorski was 10 years old when George Foreman won his gold medal at the Mexico Olympics in October of 1968. That's one way to put this into perspective.
And a look at George Foreman, who is not exactly svelte, but at 240, a lot better off than he was at 267.
10 pounds later and 70 pounds lighter comes George into this fight, round one.
He had ballooned up to over 300 at a certain point. And if nothing else, this comeback in boxing has gotten him back down to a reasonable weight.
Sekorski looking more like a light heavyweight compared to Big Foreman at 209 coming in tonight. St. Paul, Minnesota.
Now you see what Sekorski's doing right off the bat. I think this is appropriate. He's not moving a lot, just giving him some angles, trying to move a little bit left and right.
And he talked about going to the body. He feels that's an important weapon. And George actually admits that the thing he likes least about boxing, he's honest about it, is taking a shot to the midsection.
George Foreman was never a classic boxer, obviously. He always relied on his power. In later years, when he worked with Gil Clancy, Gil tried to imbue in him more of the appropriate techniques of throwing punches. It was a tough sell. And maybe in some respects, probably slowed George down, even though that wasn't the point of it.
Regarded as probably the most powerful puncher of all heavyweight champions, George Foreman. Didn't have to throw a great many punches, didn't have to move a lot, even in his prime. Sekorski feels that the power is gone from that punch now. He just ducked down and lost his balance there. It's a good stiff jab flat in the face from Foreman.
And Foreman has a good jab, even though, as I said, he's not a classic boxer in his heyday, and now he's still got a decent jab.
Halfway through the first round, and George certainly not embarrassing himself at this stage.
He's not doing much one way or the other so far, though.
No, just hanging in there, showing the jab now and then. A short chopping right. There's the jab again, the left hand. Sekorski trying to get inside and having a devil of a time doing it. Does connect with the uppercut with a minute to go in the round.
Mentioned that Sekorski has been 10 rounds with some heavyweights of some meaning. We mentioned Damiani at the outset. Adelson Rodriguez, he went 10 rounds and lost a close decision to him in Brazil. That name should only be important because that's the man that just retired Bone Crusher Smith. Beat him over 10, and Smith retired after that. So
beat Leon Spinks, but well past his prime.
Yeah.
Says now he could beat Leon every day of the week, and he may have a point.
It's possible. Questionable what that proves, though.
What could he do with George Foreman?
I'll tell you, Rocky Sekorski's winning round one. You can decide what that's worth, but he's winning it.
20 seconds to go in it. Certainly the busier of the two. Had a spell there where he couldn't get inside, but has here in the closing 45 seconds or so very well.
So far, George Foreman lands a big jab. He does not look like $1 million.
Sekorski has not been knocked down very much, just once in his last fight. He's got the reputation for staying on his feet and does here in the first round very easily and probably won it. This record crowd here, standing room only, very curious about what is to unfold here, as we have been. Foreman with Charles Shipes and Archie Moore in his corner. Archie Moore launched a whole new career at 39 when he won the light heavyweight championship in 1952 and kept it for 9 years.
See George Foreman standing up with a foot on the stool. I've never seen a fighter with that posture. I've seen him stand up, but not with his foot on the stool, kind of pointing at his, it's like a huddle in there.
Sure is different. This whole night's a little different.
Yeah, that's true. This is true.
Round 2. Foreman says he wants to fight Mike Tyson, but who doesn't? With the money involved these days, Larry Holmes gets his chance next week. Well, talk about comebacks ending, but he didn't wait 10 years like George did.
Right now, what's not impressive about Foreman, and of course it could end with one punch, he's got that power though, is that he's not, except for the jab, which we just saw, the other punches he's throwing are not thrown very well. They're thrown in awkward fashion and they don't have the quickness. Tell you what, they got the right referee in there to handle this fight, Richard Steele. He's big enough, he's experienced enough, and he's just good enough to deal with what could turn out to be something strange with two big men. Sekorski's a very awkward puncher. Eddie Futch said when Sekorski worked with Larry Holmes in sparring with him, that was one of the things that they liked about him. He helped Larry get ready for that kind of style. But Foreman's landing some heavy punches.
Big left.
I'll tell you though, those kind of punches, I believe right now, had better knock Rocky Sekorski out in the first 5 rounds. I really feel that if Foreman doesn't do that, he could have some problems later. If Sekorski can deal with that punishment, because he's hitting George with some shots.
Yes, he is.
And in the later rounds, if George is tired, you know, Rocky may be able to do something more dramatic with him.
Well, by way of guidance in the second career, which was launched March the 9th, George has finished his opponents as early as 3 rounds. It's taken him as long as 6. He had a couple of 4-round knockouts along the way.
And really, in all truth, Tim Anderson, Bobby Crabtree, Charles Hostetter, and Steve Zalski are not good opponents. They're just not. The man he's in there with now is at least representative.
They weren't of the caliber of the 5 he fought one night in Toronto back at his prime.
A regrettable incident all the way around. Good hook by Zalski.
Snapping left hook lands.
See the way Foreman's delivering his punches. It's just not good. I mean, he's delivering them from the waist in a very strange fashion. See that? I mean, you can't be impressed with him. He's just not performing that well.
He's just relying on one big bomb, whatever happens, to get the job done.
Well, and that has always been the case with him. Not always, but most of the time.
He's changed. He's not here to outpoint Rocky Sekorski. And he inflicts some punishment here. Some hip shots he's getting through.
But see, Rocky Sekorski is still standing there. Now, I'm not saying he's not going to get hurt with those, but he's not right now.
Round 2 coming to a close. In the last 30 seconds, have seen some big blows from Foreman. They continue.
Remember I said George Foreman should use combinations? Now, this is not pretty, but it's a combination, and it worked. And Sekorski was right in front of them, which is what his cornermen are telling him not to do.
George easily penetrating Rocky's defense there, and in the corner, while we were away, Sekorski's corner, they talked about how George's hands were so low that he offers virtually no defense, and how Rocky should capitalize on that. Well, all well enough said, but can it get done? How do you see the scoring so far?
I gave the second round to Foreman, the first round to Sekorski. So I've got it even at this point.
Oh, break. Step back.
Well, I don't know quite what I expected coming in tonight. But I will say this, it is by far from being a total embarrassment, the 2 rounds I've seen to this day. Not a boxing classic either.
No, because it's interesting and they're both landing punches. What it tells us about George Foreman's ability to fight for a title is another thing.
He's got a long way to go from what I've seen so far before that can ever happen. Again, the power is there, that snapping jab, and he's just going to try to bang this man in submission.
And the jab is one thing, as we said earlier, that George Foreman has a good one. That's as classic as you get, and it's powerful.
Considering he's almost 40 and has had to lose all that weight, it's a fairly quick jab for a man that big.
It is quick. That's the one punch that is quick. Oh, right hand. That may have stunned George Foreman.
Stopped him in his tracks a little bit. He did stagger with a knee.
Rocky is a very wide puncher. He loses a lot of power because of the way he punches, and also he's going after a big man. That left hook may have stunned Sekorski.
It didn't get all of him, but it got enough, and he is in trouble against the ropes. He's taking all kinds of shots with both hands from Foreman now.
Trying to hold on.
Oh, goodness, if that left had connected full force, he'd be out of here by now, and he may be very soon. Foreman is closing in on the end of this bout as he drives Sekorski across the ring. A minute to go.
And Rocky is not, by trade, a boxer, so for him to buy time here is not going to be that easy.
Well, he is very wobbly, and the punishment continues. That jab flush in the face time and time again. The chopping right hands, now the hooks. Foreman just teeing off on Sekorski. And Rocky somehow stays there and comes back for more.
Part of the interest and allure here is that even though Sekorski hasn't fought the top of the heavyweight division, he's not been knocked out. So part of Foreman's mission here tonight, whatever you think of what he's doing, was to get a knockout. That was important. And my goodness.
Look at his head snapping back. He reminds me of Randy Tex Cobb, the way he can take punches, but he's taking a terrible beating in the process. This is brutal. It is over. Richard Steele's had enough, and frankly, so have I.
Well, and Rocky Sekorski does not complain. He stayed on his feet, but took fantastic punishment. Welcome back to Superbouts, everybody. I'm Al Bernstein. As we continue our look at some of the knockouts that George Foreman has produced during his comeback. Well, in March of 1988, Dwight Muhammad Qawi would join the list of Foreman opponents. Qawi, a former light heavyweight champion and a cruiserweight champion, would take on Foreman. And this came at a period when Foreman seemed to be taking on nothing but cruiserweights. It almost seemed as if he was trying to prove how many cruiserweights he could fight before someone made him fight a heavyweight. And so it would be on March 19th, 1988 at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas. George Foreman would take on Dwight Muhammad Qawi. Let's take a look at it now. George Foreman ready to take on Dwight Muhammad Qawi. This crowd in anticipation of they don't know quite what, because Foreman in his other efforts has won every time out. Depending on your outlook, it's a good idea for him to be back or it's a bad idea. And there's an overhand right by Qawi. He saw the Guido Trani fight, and I'll tell you, Guido Trani was able to land all kinds of punches on George Foreman.
And Qawi landed a good overhand right, shook George a little bit just to start things off. But there he goes pushing him, now just as I predicted.
And Padilla gives him a warning. Now, Padilla is a referee who usually has kind of a hands-off policy about things.
Let's stand. I don't know why George isn't working that left jab. He's allowing Qawi to take liberties.
Qawi, who is thick around the middle, make no question about that, able to pretty much walk in.
I don't understand Foreman's strategy at all, Al. He should be keeping this little guy away from him. Just keep snapping that great jab that he has in his face.
There it is. And of course, the uppercut you would expect to see from George Foreman. Foreman looks like he's kind of toying with Braxton, or with Qawi. And there's the jab from Foreman.
No, he's not snapping that jab, Al.
Good right by Qawi. Well, I did the fight in which Guido Trani, who was knocked out by Foreman, fought him, and Trani, who is nowhere near what Qawi is, was able to bounce lefts and rights off the head of Foreman. So
George has to keep you out there with that left jab. If he starts to stay inside, he can get himself in a lot of trouble.
the jab and the uppercut, his two most important weapons. He just missed with them there.
You know, you mentioned the fact that the Qawi is thick around the middle. Actually, he's got no body to hit.
That's true.
And his trucks are up around his chest.
Almost anything Foreman throws to the body, you'll be a low blow.
George is allowing Qawi to take too many liberties.
Qawi can hit him with the overhand right. it looks like, just about any time.
I don't think he doesn't have a good left hook behind that right hand.
Foreman lands the hook. I think the key question, Gil, is what will happen to Qawi when Foreman lands something, if he lands something big. Look at the jab of Qawi. He may be short, but as you've said many times, it's timing that makes a left jab.
Absolutely correct. I've seen many a short guy out-jab these big, tall guys. He can come in behind the other guy's jab.
Dwight Qawi having himself a fine first round. Holding his hand out to keep Foreman at bay. And George Foreman looks ponderous and slow right now, and he's taking right hands to the head. And that one shook him. Body shot by Foreman.
Two good body shots, Al.
Well, this fight starting as Qawi would like it to. It's not the same very busy Qawi that we saw as a cruiserweight and a light heavyweight, but he's landing. There's the right and the left by Foreman. Hey, guess what? It didn't knock Qawi down.
George Foreman's corner, he stood up for the entire round, which I completely disagree with. You can take advantage of that minute rest, and you can get the guy's attention better when he's sitting down in front of you. George just stands there and, well, he's his own man. He does his own thing.
And you had first-hand experience with that when you trained him. He has won all his fights in this comeback effort. In truth, it hasn't been a glittering group that he's beaten. But he's won them all. He won them all by knockout.
The thing with George Foreman in this fight is he's not snapping that jab. He's trying to think a little too much. And while he's giving him a lot of head motion.
Now the question, it may seem early to talk about stamina, but it isn't, because you saw Qawi in training get tired very quickly.
Well, he's carrying all that extra weight. He figures that George Foreman has never been known for his strategy, but he has been improving in that area, I guess because he's a little more relaxed. And I saw him box 12 straight minutes in the gym without a rest, which I also disagree with, but they have him doing it.
Well, at least it shows he can do it. Uh-oh. For Qawi, the left hook lands, and if he keeps getting hit with those punches, he's going to have a problem.
George is trying to time him, and just a little bit of head motion that Qawi is giving him is throwing Foreman all off. He's just got to let his punches go, miss one or two, and land a third one.
But the left hook uppercut is starting to get there against Qawi. In the old days, the Dwight Muhammad Qawi that was so skilled as a light heavyweight and a cruiserweight would probably not be hit with those. He was very tough to him. Right now, he's getting nailed by Foreman. And it's taking its toll, I would think. Well, he's standing in there with him. Oh, that one hurt Qawi. He's hurt now. Padilla steps in, but Dwight Qawi is definitely stunned. After a good first round, Qawi has been nailed with some big right hands, lands his own hook against Foreman. And the right hands that were bouncing off Foreman's head in round one are not there now. A much slower Dwight Muhammad Qawi, but it's a pretty slow Foreman as well. There's the jab by Foreman.
That's what he should be using. Good left hook by Qawi, and another good left hook. Foreman pushes him off, and a right hand, and another right hand.
George Foreman felt those punches. He is getting nailed with some big shots now by Qawi, and Qawi with the jab that lands.
And Qawi is talking to him.
Qawi was hurt earlier, now he's back against the ropes. We're headed to round three. That is George Foreman, the 39-year-old ex-champ, trying to recapture that glory. Looking across at what looks like kind of a tired Dwight Muhammad Qawi, but a Qawi that's landed some big shots in the first couple of rounds. Qawi, the former light heavyweight and cruiserweight champion, gets another right hand home.
That's because George is not using that jab. What they should be telling him to do is jab at Qawi's chest. He's not going to miss him if he hits him on the chest, and he's going to knock him off balance, but he can throw a couple of combinations.
And there's the jab we talked about.
Well, he just pushed it, though, Al. He's got to snap that jab.
Right hand by Qawi, and that woke up the crowd and woke up Foreman a little, but he doesn't back up. He keeps coming. Throws a bizarre right hand to the back of, oh, there goes. Something hurt Qawi to the back of the head.
It looked to me like it got hit in the back on the kidneys, Al.
Now, is that a knockdown or not? I guess not.
I guess whatever it was.
Boy, it was very tough to see what that was. Something hurt him.
Well, Foreman just nailed him with a pretty good right hand.
You may be right, Gil. It was something to the kidneys that drove him out of the ring. You know, he was holding the back of his head. It was not called a knockdown, apparently. There was no...
Well, the referee didn't give us any indication of what it was.
There was no 8 count.
So with Qawi on the deck, he should have at least given us some kind of... And now Qawi is landing some pretty good short punches himself.
Uppercut hurt Qawi, but we've said that before, and he seems to come back. Foreman under the microscope, to be sure. People looking at what he has and what he doesn't have. Qawi in a bad spot for him in that corner. Lands some rights.
That left hook was a go-home left hook, but it missed.
Under a minute left to go in round 3. In a round in which both men have landed big shots just like the second round. Again the right by Qawi, a counter right.
George doesn't seem to have any snap in his punches at all, Al. They're so ponderous, they're pushing punches.
And that's probably why Qawi's still standing, because he's landed some big shots. There it is again, the right hand. Those are not tremendous punches, because as Gil said, they're not being delivered properly.
His big punch, his best punch is still that left jab, but he's not using it. Big left hook by Qawi.
Dwight Qawi doing what Guido Trani did so well, those overhand hooks and overhand rights, getting there. For George Foreman, defense is not his strong suit right now.
Well, because he pulls his hand so far back before he punches out.
Into round 4, longer than a lot of people thought this would go. It's a close fight.
It certainly is, and George Foreman was just bouncing up and down like he's trying to feel his legs. There's all that pushing that I was telling you about that they were working on in the gym. In my opinion, you should be just working on punching with George, not pushing. He's not using that left jab at all, Al.
Not even a little bit.
Wouldn't you think that from the other fights he knew that was his best punch, that that's what he'd be doing, snapping out that jab?
He used it very effectively in his fight with Rocky Sekorski, and even the fight with Trani, and in all the other ones. Not here, and Qawi gets in a left hand. It's weird slapping right hand, and Padilla appropriately gives Foreman a warning for backhanding.
Well, it was a backhand.
Now, this has really slowed here. And what we saw in the Norris Snipes fight could take place here. Two men very tired.
They're telling George in the corner, rough him. I'd be telling him to punch him.
I think that might be a better idea.
Rough him.
Qawi not much on his punches right now. In fact, nobody's really punching. They're just
the funny thing is, Qawi's strategy says if he can get George into the later rounds, George would be tired. George's corner strategy is to rough Qawi to make him tired. I mean, why don't they just depend on fighting ability instead of seeing if we can get him tired first?
Maybe we should skip right.
Good right hand counter by Qawi.
Good combinations by Dwight Qawi.
He's able to hold George off with one hand and throw that right hand with the other hand. Foreman better start punching.
There's the jab. Uppercut by Qawi. And so what has been landed in this round primarily has been landed by Qawi.
Landed left hook by Qawi.
Now he's taunting George just a bit.
Well, Foreman is going to have to start putting a little snap, especially the left jab.
There isn't much on George Foreman's punches right now.
And George is starting to gasp for air, Al.
Right hand by George Foreman that does very little damage to Qawi, or it appears. George looks disinterested, looking over at his corner. Lands the uppercut, not much there. Well, for the cynics that didn't think George Foreman should be doing this, they're probably making their case right now because he's not looking good.
Well, you have to remember, as heavy as Qawi has become, he still was able to go 15 rounds with a guy like an Evander Holyfield. He has abilities.
Oh yes, he definitely does. There's no question about that. Now he was hit with 3 good shots by Foreman. Gil, I don't know about you, but I have my answer. I think that Foreman is not going to knock him out with 1 punch. If he's going to do it, it'll have to be with a series of punches. Of course, Archie Moore is also an advisor to George Foreman, though he wasn't up in the corner at that moment. The former great light heavyweight champion.
One of the greatest,
yes,
if not the greatest.
Who won the title, interestingly enough,
Good
at
right hand
39.
by Qawi to start the round. And George is not keeping him at a distance. And again, he got warned by the referee.
For the elbow, and appropriately so. And he shakes his head yes, but he still threw the elbow. We're in the round 5. It's scheduled for 12. Most don't expect it to go that far, but most are scheduled for 10, excuse me. But most people didn't expect it to go this far. There goes Qawi down again.
He just got pushed by George and fell down.
Wow.
This is exactly what Jimmy Young did, you know, in the first fight. In the first round, Foreman started to push him, and Jimmy Young let himself fall down a couple of times. He got the entire crowd on his side.
Can they go 10 rounds? Find out. They're in the 5th right now. Qawi, what is he doing? Is he quitting?
I think Qawi is really very tired now. He's letting it all hang out.
Well, presumably he's mad about some tactic that Foreman is using, and Foreman's used a few strange tactics, but he just walked away there.
Well, we mentioned before the fight that George is so big and strong. If he starts doing this pushing, it's going to make it look ridiculous. Hey, now George has got that left hand where he can nail it. He's has to throw it.
Qawi missing with the hook. He's putting himself in punching range for Qawi. I guess he's clowning, I don't know, but he's getting hit with an occasional jab. George may sense Qawi wants to get out of there. I don't know.
Well, with George's punches, they're just clubbing punches. They're not, as you said, Al, they're not the kind of punches that can put the lights out with 1 punch. It has to be an accumulation.
We would have thought coming in that there was a chance he might be able to knock out Qawi with 1 punch because Dwight hasn't faced a big heavyweight, but this is not the same George Foreman of 10 years ago. George is having a pretty good 5th round, however, from a scoring standpoint. Jabs by Qawi.
When Qawi leans over like that, what George should be just feint that jab and hook to the body, hit him with 2 body punches, and maybe he could get him out of there, but he's not doing that.
There's very little body work by Foreman, but as you pointed out, there's not much of a target there.
They're all arm punches, Al. No, his hips don't move at all when he throws a punch, George.
The jab by Foreman. It's been largely absent tonight.
I'm waiting for Qawi. There it is. I was waiting for Qawi to come up with that sneak left hook counter.
And he got the right in after it. And the uppercut. And so Dwight Muhammad Qawi explodes a bit here in the 5th round. Foreman with his own uppercut, and things heat up. That'll do it for round 5 in this 10-round heavyweight matchup. George with a 52-2 record, 49 knockouts in that span. Of course, the only 2 men he lost to, Muhammad Ali and Zaire African, and a decade ago, losing to the fancy boxing Jimmy Young. In the heat in, I believe, San Juan, Puerto Rico, correct?
San Juan, Puerto Rico, 100 degrees in the building.
You were there. You know about that heat.
Well, that was about as much snap as I've seen George have on a punch tonight. A little left hook.
He has not gotten leverage on his punches. He's landed some big ones, according to Qawi for low blows. Qawi landing a couple of good shots.
Foreman pushes Qawi back, and while he's off balance, he doesn't jump on him. And that takes some energy to be pushing that 222 pounds around all the time. Well, Qawi just relaxes, steps straight back, and George doesn't look to punch him. Time after time.
that tactic started when he did so effectively to Joe Frazier and pushed him off his rhythm. But in this instance, it seems that's not necessary. He could just stand back and punch, like that.
George is looking to find it. You can move your head all night, Al, but your body doesn't move. George can be trying to throw some milk bombs downstairs.
He's really not trying to hit the body of Qawi. He's landing in this round, no question about that. He's having a good 6th round.
And he got nailed.
Qawi lands a short right hand and a left hook. Another hook by Qawi. Foreman just pushes him off. But you have to start thinking decision here if this fight keeps going and start talking about who's landing more punches. Foreman's had a pretty good 6th round, but Qawi came with a couple of big shots.
Well, if this fight continues this way, I think we're going to see a very controversial decision.
It does have split decision written all over it. Right hand by Foreman, and that uppercut hurt. He faked him out. Wow. He faked out Foreman, then came back with a right hand. That was fascinating. I've never seen a fighter fake that much.
No, it looked like he was going down.
Wow. We've all seen Ali fake being hurt, but not quite in that posture.
And now George turned around and looked at his corner.
Gil, do you feel like everything is kind of in slow motion here?
Yes, I
It's like
certainly
we're
do.
watching a fight as if you could stop it and use a still every 10 or 12 seconds. There's 22 seconds left in round 6, and that left hook did hurt him. That's a knockdown because no, it isn't. It should have been. He went against the ropes.
Against the ropes, right? That's correct.
That should have been a knockdown. Instead, Foreman stopped punching. Qawi got up. Oh, there's been some odd things in this round. Qawi went down a couple of rounds ago. No, nothing was called. That'll do it for round 6. There's a full moon out tonight.
Next round is going to be an important round, Al. If Qawi gets by the next round, I think we're going to find things very, very interesting. Depends on how much will Qawi has right now.
How you feeling? Tell me, boy. Huh? How you feel?
Serious questions being asked in that corner, and here's what we thought might have been a knockdown.
Big left hook by George. That is a knockdown.
Yes.
When the ropes prevent you from going down, it's supposed to be a knockdown.
It's what the rule book says, but in this case, it wasn't called a knockdown.
Especially the right hand.
Using the end swelling on the left eye of George Foreman. We're moving into round 7. It's been a bout in which that man, George Foreman, has hurt Qawi a couple times, but Qawi has also nailed him.
I think this is the key round right now, Al. This is going to be the key.
And if you're wondering, George Foreman, since he started his comeback in March of '87, has never gone to the 7th round. So this is new territory for him since he came back.
Blood on the front of Qawi's trunks, but I can't spot where he's bleeding from, Al. He's so wide open for a left hook underneath Qawi. I mean, to feint that jab, he could just rip that hook under.
And you would think that would be something George Foreman would be using.
Well, somebody maybe has to tell him.
It's true.
And even then, what makes you think he'd pay attention, you know? Yeah.
The right hand gets there by Foreman. There's the uppercut, and that right hand pushes Qawi back. But before we have thought Qawi might be in real trouble, and he wasn't. The jab and the right hand by Foreman, and the jab helping to set this up, and as you said, Gil, it's something he should have used earlier.
He's got a great jab, but he just won't use it.
That was always the case, even in the old days.
Well, he's using it now, Al. 5 consecutive good jabs, and then he went to the body.
Well, you said this would be a key round, and right now George Foreman is dominating it.
That was the first good left hook to the body, which I think he can land all day.
And I'm not sure that didn't really hurt Qawi. I think Qawi wants to quit. That's it.
Well, as I said, Al, he had the will to get by this round, which he did not have.
Well, it's an unsatisfactory ending, to be sure, from all standpoints. But as you look at George Foreman, he'll take it because he gets the win and, I guess, continues on in his comeback bid.
Well, you know, we said it would be, we thought it might be an ugly fight, Al, and it was. There was nothing sparkling about the fight whatsoever. George just brutalized Dwight Qawi is what he did.
So Dwight Muhammad Qawi becomes another cruiserweight victim of George Foreman, and people kept saying, when the heck is he going to fight a big heavyweight? Well, they would get their answer when we had the Geezers at Caesars, which Jerry Cooney would take on George Foreman. Cooney, a 33-year-old, taking on the almost 40-year-old George Foreman in a match that some thought might give Foreman some legitimacy. And for Cooney, he had been training very hard, hadn't fought since his match with Michael Spinks, but still he had the power to give George Foreman, some people thought, a tough time. And so it would be the Geezers at Caesars in Atlantic City, Jerry Cooney and George Foreman. Yes, there would be some fireworks, and we'll have them for you when we come back.
If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life.
A little Lee Greenwood.
Safe to say no fighter has entered the ring to a more mellow tune than Lee Greenwood. I owe you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Top Rank Incorporated and the King of Beers presents the main event of the evening by way of Caesars in Atlantic City. The moment you've all been waiting for. Let's get ready to rumble 10 rounds in the heavyweight division. The referee for this fight is Joe Cortez. Introducing first, fighting out of the red corner, he's wearing the black trunks with white letters and weighs an even 231 pounds, a native of New York now, living and fighting out of Marco Island, Florida. His professional record, an outstanding one of 28 victories, 24 by KO, only 2 defeats. Ladies and gentlemen, Jerry Cooney! And his opponent, fighting out of the blue corner, he's wearing the white trunks with blue and red trim and weighs an even 253 pounds. He's from Marshall, Texas. This Olympic gold medal champion has a professional record of 64 victories, 60 by knockout, only 2 defeats in his career. He's the former heavyweight champion of the world, George Foreman.
All right, Jerry and George, both were given the rules earlier. I want a good, clean fight. Obey my commands at all times. Protect yourself at all times. Shake hands. Good luck to both of you.
That was the closest Jerry Cooney has come to looking at an opponent during the referee's instructions. He almost looked George Foreman in the eye.
And an odd crowd in attendance here tonight.
Yeah, very subdued.
I don't
very
think
muted.
they came to root. I think they came to watch. I'm sure they'll get behind whoever the aggressor is in the beginning, and here we go. George immediately going to the crossed arms, the stance that he's favored throughout his now 20-fight comeback. And there's the big left hook by Jerry Cooney.
Not landing that time. Obviously, that cross arm defense is a trademark of George's trainer, 76-year-old Archie Moore, one of the all-time cliche, but really one of the all-time boxing greats.
And of course, that crossed arm, George used it effectively, fighting the much shorter opponents that he's faced up to now.
Jerry trying to dig for the first time, the left hook to the body. That really is his best punch. Jerry moving to his right, also not something that's very natural to him, but it's movement that's designed by his trainer, Gil Clancy, to confuse George Foreman, to keep him off balance, and therefore nullify his power.
And you touched the key word there, Alex, balance, something that Gil Clancy has said that he really wanted to work on with Jerry Cooney. Oh, there's a left from George Foreman.
Foreman jab, he has a very heavy and strong snapping jab when he wants to throw it and lands it, gets it home. Tremendous punch. Jerry Cooney at times also jabbed well, most notably with Larry Holmes.
Good left to the body by Cooney, and then he came upstairs and
mouthpiece is out. We're going to replace the mouthpiece. George Foreman doesn't know what it is yet. Gil Clancy puts Jerry's mouthpiece in.
Let's go, time in. Go ahead.
Lost it about 20 seconds ago.
And George said, I'm not going to waste the energy walking all the way over to that corner.
That replacing the mouthpiece, a new rule. Ordinarily, the fighter would have to fight without the mouthpiece for the remainder of the round.
Well, there's that jab of Foreman again getting in.
George, we have to say right here, and not just in contrast to Jerry Cooney, George is a little bit quicker than he has been in his 19 fights of his comeback. That wild amateur is Foreman right to the body. He threw that punch when he was a world champion.
When you look at, and there's a couple left and a right to the body by George Foreman. That jab lands but really doesn't do anything, didn't have anything on it, and that's really a trademark of Foreman's punches, Alex.
You could almost see Jerry Cooney thinking there a moment ago, damn, he was along the ropes. Wait a minute, I am not supposed to be on the ropes. Let me get out of here, and he did. Before Foreman was able to take advantage of it. But again, Jerry in a corner. And that time, Jerry got a little left hook in, and he wobbled Big George. First damage to either fighter done by Cooney with an inside left hook to Foreman's head.
The final 10 seconds of the first round. There was a big right to the ribs by George. And they made it around.
Hi, baby. Put your hands in your lap. Put your hands in your lap. Sit up straight with me. You're doing okay. You're doing fine. One thing I want you to do, stay off the ropes. Don't wait for him. You hurt him bad, you know. You can't get discouraged hitting him in the You can't get discouraged hitting him in the belly.
Let's take a look at the mouthpiece being knocked out. That jab by George Foreman. Then the second jab behind it, and Jerry Cooney's mouthpiece came out. Action late in the round. Watch the inside left hook by Cooney. Not there. Not there, but there. And that punch moved George Foreman.
It didn't really appear to be a loaded punch, but nonetheless, it still wobbled George. George, as he has done throughout his entire comeback, eschewing a stool in the corner, standing the entire 60 seconds.
George says it's so boring to sit down.
Well, George has appeared to be bored through these past 19 prior fights.
Not in this one.
There's a good left counter by Cooney.
He came in here with a much more serious look than he's had in any of his previous 19 fights of his comeback. And he better be serious because he's got millions and millions of dollars at stake here.
Well, they both do.
But George didn't need this fight to fight Tyson. He was going to get that Tyson fight, amazingly enough. He was going to get it anyway. He's risking everything.
Oh, and there's a good right lead by George Foreman. It doesn't do a whole lot, but it definitely scores.
Ooh.
Oh, and another right by Foreman. And Jerry Cooney has his left hanging a little low. There he gets it back up.
George putting pressure on Cooney, backing him around the ring just by walking in. Jerry so far has not chosen to stand his ground and trade punches. He's been fighting in spurts. There, standing his ground, punching, and then trying to move out of the way. Obviously,
and there is the big roundhouse left, the trademark punch of George Foreman. Ooh, and that blow by Cooney went undetected by Joe Cortez.
Good inside uppercut by Foreman.
Let's go. Work on it. Come on. Snap that shit.
Oh, and look at the left. Come up and slice it up. And Jerry Cooney's in big trouble. He's ready to go. And there he goes.
2, 3, 4.
And he is badly hurt. Same position he was in round 5 against Spinks. A clubbing right hand by Foreman. Now let's see if he's learned anything about how to survive, because he's got 1 minute and 8 seconds left. Oh, and that's it.
And I don't think this fight's over. This fight's over. George Foreman blows away Jerry Cooney in the second round.
And he came over here to ringside and winked.
And Jerry Cooney is not close to getting up. 1 minute and 57 seconds of the second round. George Foreman makes believers of some. I don't know how many, but made believers of some. Definitely Jerry Cooney.
You know he's okay.
Jerry Cooney is sitting up.
George Foreman, the 20th fight of his comeback, his 19th knockout, only the decision to Everett Martin. And George Foreman attempting to defy time. It is a crowded ring, but we'll get up to Michael Buffer.
157 of the second round, the winner. Now on his great comeback, 20 in a row, 19 by KO, Big George Foreman.
Well, Jerry Cooney fell at the hands of George Foreman, as so many others had in Foreman's comeback. Many felt, myself included, that Jerry Cooney might well beat Foreman. I thought that the height that Cooney had, the powerful left hook that you saw him use to hurt Foreman in the first round, might do George in. But Foreman came on as the champion that he had been and that he so desperately wanted to be. And even at the age of 40, George Foreman showed that he has power. Now, during his comeback, it's been funny. George is very humorous. There have been a lot of crazy shenanigans in the ring and outside the ring. It's been kind of a sideshow and a circus. But the one fact remains, and it is definitely indelibly imprinted in the minds of those who have fought him, George Foreman can hit. He showed it not only in the matches we've shown you, but also against Adelson Rodriguez and the like. And he even showed it to Evander Holyfield when he fought for the heavyweight championship. Holyfield admitted there were occasions when Foreman's power really shook him. So George Foreman shows that even at an advanced age, he can punch. Will he get another shot at the heavyweight title? Will he ever find the fountain of youth and win that crown again? Possibly not. But one thing's for sure. Not only did George Foreman bring us a lot of laughs, a lot of fun in his comeback, he brought us a lot of excitement and some great knockouts. I'm Al Bernstein. Happy you joined us for Superbouts. We'll see you next time.